Hi everyone, my name is Emmanuel and welcome to this course on CSS. We'll be covering what CSS is, what it is not, and how to use it. I'm going to be really concise with this course, so we're just gonna try and fly through it as fast and as concise, of course, as we can. The first thing that you're gonna need is a text editor. At the beginning of this course, I'll be using Adobe Brackets. It's free. Just you can get it on brackets.io. You're going to find the link in the description. And the reason I'm using this text editor is because it has a great live preview feature, which we're going to see and analyze a little bit later. But for the later lessons, we're going to be using something more, in my personal opinion, robust, which is Sublime Text. They're both free, so you can just get them and download them. You can just pause the video and get them. But before we actually start working, there is just one small thing that I want to cover, and that is I want to make an analogy on what these web technologies are. I like to imagine that the HTML is a house. You could imagine that the HTML is everything that a basic house consists of, like the foundation, the walls, the windows, the ceiling, and so on. You could imagine the CSS as the visual style, so how a house would actually look, how you would make it individual, like the paint, the curtain material, the wallpapers, the flooring, and so on. And if we go further with the analogy, JavaScript would be the stuff that you interact with in the house. Like you could open a window, you can close a door, you have a fridge that works and it does a specific task. It cools your food. So just having these three analogies in mind, the HTML is the structure, the CSS is, of course, the styling, and the JavaScript is the interaction layer. We're not going to be covering JavaScript. It's just something that I wanted to nail down and show you guys before we go into learning some actual code. Alright, so I just fired up Adobe Brackets, and this is the first thing that you're going to get. Before we start coding, I want to show you really briefly on the interface for Adobe Brackets. On the left-hand side, we have the toolbar or the sidebar where you can quickly see all of your files. This is obviously the main working area where you see a lot of weird code. And on the right-hand side, you have the live preview button, which I've mentioned earlier. And you also have an extension manager, which we will not go in depth, but it's just good so you know. Alright, first let's close up the stuff that we have here and let's open a folder. I've previously made a folder on my project partition, and you can just make a new folder anywhere on your computer and then just open it. I've made an empty HTML file just before, and I'm going to paste in some code. You can get this code from the link that I'm going to pop up on the screen. And what this is just a basic HTML simple structure. And let's just write some text in here. Let's say my name is Emmanuel, right? And let's press this magic live preview button and let's see what happens. Okay, since I have two screens, I'm gonna have to go like this. And right off the bat, we can see that the stuff that I wrote here is up here and it's even selectable. This is the magic of live preview, and let me show you a little bit more. I can say this is a special video for learning CSS, and you can off the bat see the modifications that you're doing from the code to the actual browser, which is really great. Before continuing, I want to say sorry for any interruptions that I might have in my speech. I'm not a native English speaker, and I'm sorry for the mediocre audio performance. It's the not so great incorporated laptop microphone. So let's continue with the CSS lesson. So you have basically three ways of writing CSS. You have the inline way, the internal way, and the external way. Right. So now I just made 4 different paragraphs with some random Latin text. And I'm going to show you the first way of writing CSS, which is inline. Inline CSS looks like this. You would write style equals to, let's say, color red. Like that, sorry. Which obviously will make the color of this paragraph to be red. If, for example, we have the next one that we want to give it a color of blue, then we're going to give it a color of blue. And if we want to repeat that, then we could just do that for each of the paragraphs that we need to have red, and further on which of them we would need to have them blue, or a different size, or so on. Now, this is not going to be how you would typically write your CSS, because you can already see all the problems that you're going to have with this way of writing. You would have to actually modify each and every one of these lines. If, for example, you decide to change the color red to the color yellow, then you would actually have to do that for each of them, and that doesn't really seem that useful, does it? So let's check on the second way of writing CSS sorry, which is the internal way. I'm just going to delete these styles. Alright, the second way you would write CSS is within the head section, which is from line 3 to 9. And you would write it like this. You would write style. And what this means is, hey, what this is saying is, hey, this is going to be the way that I'm going to style this exact page. So let's see how we can do that. Let's write P, which stands for these paragraphs, all of them. And we're just going to write color, let's make it maroon. And then close that up. Maroon is maybe not the best color, let's make it green. Right, so now we can see that all of our paragraphs right now have the color green. That's pretty useful, isn't it? Then we can, let's say, make a heading 2, and we could write here, this is a text, and then we make the heading 2, let's give it a background color of maroon. Now we can actually see it properly. And if, of course, I could write correctly, back G-R-O-U-N-D, yes. Now we can see that the background color is maroon, and we could also give it the color white. Okay, so this is the second way that you would write your CSS. This is the internal way of writing CSS. And then you have the external way, which is taking all of this code and putting it into a separate file. Why would you want to do that? Well, imagine the situation like this. You have your index.html, which is your main web page. But then you want to make another one where you want to write about your experiences in university, or you want to put on some photos that you wrote. And you want to use the same kind of style, the same kind of code. You would want to use maybe the same beautiful green and maroon for your text. And the way you would have to do it with this internal styling would be you would have to copy and then paste the same code into every web page. And think about it like this. If again you want to modify something, let's say you want to modify a color, a font size, then you would actually have to go in each and every one of the files and then edit them, which is obviously kind of a pain in the ass. So let's check on how to use the external styles. To actually have external styles, we're going to need to create a file. So let's go File, New, and then let's save it. And we're going to call this one style.css, just like that, and put it in the same folder as your index.html. And right now it's an empty file, and let's just take this piece of code. I just copied it and then just paste it in here. And just so you know, if you want to move these indented lines of code, to indent them more to the right, you would press Tab, and to bring them back, you would press Shift Tab. So let's bring them back a few times, and I'll save this. And as we can see, something went wrong. What the hell went wrong? We took the code from there and we put it here, but we don't have, and we didn't define an exact way of linking them, telling this HTML file that, hey, this is the styling that we want. So let's do that now. To do that, you would have to use the link tag, where we define a href, and let's just say style.css. And let's see if that does anything, style.css. Okay, so that was the way to link your CSS, your external CSS, to your HTML using the link tag. I would guess that the problem previously was that I didn't include the type and or the rel for the CSS. So that was it for this video on the types of CSS. See you in the next one.